Jimmy made us promise that we'd all keep these to 10 minutes. That did not happen, so I apologize. I know it's been a long meeting. But Dad was long-winded, so it kind of all equals out at the end. He was long-winded. I wanted to start out by just saying that that song that we sang, I Heard Him Come, we first heard that at a funeral of one of my cousins, Kristen Nielsen. The first time I heard it, I was probably 8 years old, and my dad loved that song and asked Sarah and I, once Jim married Sarah, and thank goodness Jim married such a nice lady, because he really, talk about marrying up, you know what I mean? But anyway, but Sarah has a beautiful voice, and so Mom would play the piano, and we would sing that song, and Dad always would say, always, you must sing that song at my funeral. He probably said it a dozen times. And so, so while I didn't want to do it, I felt like it was something that I needed to do for my dad. You'll have to excuse me as I kind of meander through a talk, and I'm going to try to go quick because I know it's been a long time. But and my brothers have said it all. They stole a bunch of my stories, a bunch of my jokes. The Mercedes joke was, I was going to tell. Shoot, I'm mad about that one. But I was debating whether that was appropriate, so I guess it worked out fine. You'll have to excuse me from rolling from the present tense to the past tense as I speak, because I know my dad is here. I feel his presence. I feel his love. He may not be here in spirit and body, but he's here. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the little signs I've seen over the last couple of weeks letting me know that he's here and comforting me. I was with Dad at the time of the accident, and I've needed that extra comfort, and I've felt it from my dad. He's just simply moved on to the next stage of his eternal journey, and I'm excited to one day be reunited with my father. Dad was the epitome of cool. I'll run through this really quick. He loved cool cars. Jimmy talked about we always had cool wheels and tires on trucks. When Dad was a teenager, he'd take his dad's truck out, and like the muffler story, he'd take it back behind the house and he'd jack it up and stick big blocks of wood in the suspension to lift the truck. And he'd drive it around, and then when the date night was over, he'd run back and jack it up and pull the wood out so his dad didn't know. So he'd say, you know, I invented the lift kit. I invented that. I wish he would have patented it, because we probably, benefited from that. But he didn't patent it, but apparently he invented it. Dad loved jeeping and off-roading. When he was a kid, he'd tell a story. He'd always tell a story to his boys. He'd say, when I was 18 or 17, 16, I'd take my dad's Jeep, and we'd go up, and I'd just go by myself, and he'd say this, exact words. He said, all I took was, what would he say? He'd say, I took a sleeping bag, a bottle of water, and a hunk of cheese. That's the most random thing ever. And I tease him, I'm like, what's a hunk of cheese? Could you describe how big is a hunk? And he'd be like, don't be a smart aleck. I won't say what he said. But then he'd laugh, that big booming laugh he had. But he'd go up into the mountains in his Jeep, just himself, and just go explore for a couple of days at a time. I think that's probably the manliest thing I've ever heard, is just thinking of my dad, a young buck stud, out in a Jeep by himself. And this is before they blasted all these old roads and made them, somewhat passable. Dad is just a total, absolute stud, always is and always will be. He liked cool stereo systems, even though he listened to some questionable music. He listened to smooth jazz, which I never understood. I've never been a smooth jazz guy. But he liked some good music too. He loved Don Williams, and especially at the cabin. My early memories of my dad are sitting by the fire. At 6 a.m. he'd flip on Don Williams really loud for the whole house, and everyone, we'd come out, and Dad would be sitting in his chair by the fire with the fire crackling. He loved to build a fire, and he'd have Don Williams, and he'd have a big smile on his face and say good morning. We'd have friends come to the cabin over the years, and the first few days they'd be like, dude, what is this music, what's this old country music? And by the end of the trip, all of them would own all the albums. They'd all go buy. We'd go into Durango and they'd buy all the albums. He had loved cool motorcycles. He obviously, I'm trying to skip through some things. He loved cool movies. He loved James Bond, especially Sean Connery. He was the only Bond to Dad. He loved Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns, and he loved John Wayne. The Duke, I said the Duke. He loved the Duke. Dad loved getting things done. He was a doer, hardest working man I've ever known and ever will know. Dad labeled everything. He loved label makers. And if you've ever been to our houseboat at Lake Powell, you'll notice inside every cabinet, every light switch, everything is labeled with a nice little label. He loved it. He also always loved to-do lists. So when you get into any of my dad's cars, the first thing you have to do is move his legal yellow pad of his daily to-do list. He always had a to-do list, and he'd cross it off as he went out through his day. He loved accomplishment. He loved the sense of accomplishment. In fact, I was going through his work bag, and he has a manila folder in there, and of course on the label, it's labeled with a label maker, this manila folder, and it says, old to-do lists. Who does that? Who keeps their old to-do lists? That were all done. I went through them, and they're all checkmarked. Slashed through. But that's how much Dad loved accomplishment. I think he liked to look back and see all the things he'd done, and took a lot of pride in that. And always would try to teach us to be doers and hard workers. Dad has a brilliant mind. He knows everything about everything. It's just true. I've never asked my dad a question that maybe he pretended, maybe he BS'd his way through some of it, but he always had a great answer. One time we were working on my truck, and he helped me put a new exhaust. We always had cool cars to drive when we were 16, but they were always his cars. It was never ours. He'd be like, that's my truck, right? And I'm like, I know. And he's like, what are you gonna do today? I'm like, it's gonna be washed, it's gonna be fueled, don't worry. We were putting a new exhaust on my truck, and I asked him, I'm like, Dad, how do speakers work? Like, how does an electrical impulse come down a wire and create sound? Just kind of under my breath. And Dad's like, oh, well, here's what happens. And he told me for like an hour while we're cranking on my truck, he tells me exactly how speaker systems work. And he just knew things. He just had such a great gift of being able to learn and absorb something and then remember it later and then teach it. All their own skills. And he just, more than anybody I've ever known, could put all that together in a way that I will never be able to do. But I'm envious of it. He had an incredible vocabulary. Dad used real big words, and I always go look them up afterwards, and he always used them perfectly. They were always in perfect context, and they were organic. It's not like he was trying to use them. He'd just pull out this word perfectly in a sentence, and I love that about him. I remember in our cabin, baking, doing things in the kitchen, and I'd ask my dad things like, hey, how many cups are in a quart? And he'd go, 4. Like immediately, he just knew it. And that's stuff that I never knew. And then I'd look at him and I'm like, how did you know that? And he's like, how did you not know that? He's like, didn't you go to school? I learned that in 2nd grade. So he knew measurements really well. And he was just smart. The guy's just brilliant. Dad was good at everything. Everything he did, he was good at. I can't think of anything he wasn't good at. Maybe except electronics, but he would text me for that. And I'd help him with his electronics. Dad, this was alluded to, Dad was a staunch conservative. He, owning his own business for a lot of his life, he felt that the government was kind of inherently bad and wanted the government out of his life. And he's a staunch conservative. And he believed that everyone who was able-bodied should be left alone to reap what they sowed. He said that's why the forefathers came to America. He loved history. His historical heroes were Winston Churchill, a few others, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. He loved General George S. Patton, one of his biggest heroes. He loved that movie, Patton. And I remember watching it with him a few times. He had a plaque on his desk, as long as I've known him. It was a Patton quote, and it said, if a man does his best, what else is there? It's a great quote. A man does his best, what else is there? Dad is a man. He's a true man. Dad loved his mother, Ethel. He'd smile every time he talked about his mom. And I just want to say that I love you, Mom. I'm so proud of you. The way you've handled this is it's inspiring to me. Dad loved his mom, and he would smile every time he talked about her. She was his hero. Talked about how she was a little farm girl from Eager, Arizona. Sometimes she was a disciplinarian, and sometimes she'd spank him. So one time when he was 4 or 5, he had a little pedal car that had a little motor, it had a little electric motor in it. It was like an 8-volt battery or something in his car. And his mom spanked him. And so he felt she was being unfair. So he packed a lunch in a little bag and went and got in his car, and he was going to run away. He was going to run away. And so he got in his little car, and he got just about 20 feet past the mailbox, and his car ran out of batteries. And so he said, when the battery ran out, so did my resolve to run away. So he pushed, and it's just classic that he got in a car to leave, if you know my dad. So he pushed his little car back home, and he said, I wasn't even gone long enough for my mom to even know I was gone. So anyway, Dad loves Mom. He taught us through example of how to respect women and put your wife first. Mom and Dad took a lot of trips together. I remember always crying as a little kid. And when I was 18, I wasn't 18, I'm just kidding. I was like 4 or 5, 6. But I cried when Mom and Dad would leave on their trips. And mostly because I missed my mom. I was a mama's boy. But they'd always do these fun trips together. And I have never heard my dad say one negative comment about my mom, ever. He has never said anything negative about my mother to me. He respects her, and she's his whole life. Dad was the best storyteller ever. I'm gonna have to skip through some of this. Dad would always take every opportunity to teach anyone a lesson. If there was an opportunity to teach a lesson, Dad would take it. A couple examples. He wanted us to teach us to be practical. Jim talked about his practicality. He had this inner struggle of practical versus cool, And so he's always fighting that. Jeff talked about that Mercedes. I remember he bought that Mercedes in 1998, and it sat in the garage for like 3 months, and finally he started driving it. But only after, this long dissertation about how we're not Mercedes people, and they're ostentatious and ridiculous. But then he'd go drive it, and he loved it. About 2 years ago, he decided he's going to buy another car, and he was looking at this beautiful E43 AMG car. It's a beautiful car. And he tried to convince us over and over, I'm just going to buy that Impala. Just like Jim said, I'm going to buy the Impala. It's just so dang practical. It's got everything you need. It's a beautiful car. And we'd all be like, yeah, whatever, Dad. And he's like, no, you watch. I'm going to buy the Impala. And then he pulled up in his new Mercedes. The morning of his accident, by the way, I'm wearing a belt. So the morning of the accident, I came out of my motorhome, and I had packed the wrong pants. And I said, Dad, these pants are too big around the waist. Do you have a belt? And he said, no, I don't have a belt, but check it out. I got something for you. So he takes me to the back of his trailer and opens up his tool chest and pulls out a ratchet tie down and says, put this on. And he put it on, and I'm wearing it today, if you can see. He was practical and smart, and I've worn this tie down belt since his accident. The morning of his accident, he was talking about the new Escalade. They're putting out a new Escalade, and he loves Escalades. And so we were talking, and he's like, Jeff's trying to get me to buy this Escalade, and it's just too much money. It's ridiculous. I have so many, it's just all ridiculous. Really, it's just, it goes on this 10-minute deal about practicality. And I said, yeah. So what color are you gonna get? And he looked at me and he goes, white. And I'll tell you one more story real quick. So I remember skiing. We were in the early 90s, and it was us and the Nielsen's, I think, and we were in Purgatory, Colorado. We were skiing down this slope, and Dad's leading. He was such a mother hen, and he was kind of the OSHA of our Harley group. He'd always be before we would leave in the morning. He'd stop everybody, and be like, "Now, everybody, we should wear helmets and make sure you have good spacing." And we've all ridden tens of thousands of miles, and we just kind of roll our eyes. But I'm going to miss that. I'm gonna miss it like crazy. But we're all skiing, it's purgatory, and my dad's leading, and he stops at a big head wall. There's a giant drop-off head wall, and then it kind of goes, and he stops us all, and he says, now, and he gets everybody together, there's probably 12 or 14 of us, and he says, gather in, we all get in. And he's like, now look at this head wall. If you hadn't stopped here, we would have all just gone off this head wall, and someone would have gotten injured or killed. I mean, you have to be cautious. Well, just then, some hotshot skier basically goes through our group and just launches off this head wall. I mean, just 10 feet in the air, doing one of these. And when he hits at the bottom, his just equipment explodes. I mean, skis and boots everywhere, poles, goggles everywhere. And my dad's like, look at that idiot. I told you. This is exactly what I was saying. And my brother Jim says, hey, Dad. And he goes, shut up, Jim. I'm trying to teach a lesson. Look at this idiot. And Jim goes, Dad, that's Jeff. He immediately, we all skied up down to help Jeff. So, anyway, yeah, Jeff was okay. Skipping a few things. Dad always made me feel very special by attending sporting events, especially high school football games. He had so many sayings, Jim alluded to that. Dad was a man of faith. Dad loves God and knows Jesus Christ. He baptized me. He gave me the priesthood. He set me apart as a high priest a few months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, which was a sweet experience having my dad set me apart as a high priest. The irony of it is Dad kind of hated high priest form. That's a secret that he doesn't. Probably is mad that I'm telling. Sorry, Dad. He said it was a bunch of self-righteous, crabby old men in there, so. Dad loved getting together over a great meal. Over the last 10 years, we have a tradition in our family where the adults would all get together with our wives at Fleming's or Arrowhead Grill, typically Fleming's. And Dad would always start the meal by saying, hey, I'm paying, but let's try to control the expenses tonight a little bit, right? And then we'd all order whatever, and then at the end, he'd always try to bargain a little bit with the waiter, Hey, you got any specials? It's like it's already done. We already do one. When we go on these long Harley rides, I'm sorry, I'm going a little long, but we go on these long Harley rides, and there's like 14 or 18 of us, and there's these little diners you go in the middle of nowhere, and so Dad would always get us all together beforehand and go, now listen, this is a little diner, and there's a lot of us, so we're going to go in, we're going to order 18 cheeseburgers, 18 fries, and 18 Cokes. That's just what we're going to do, okay? Make it easy, and so we go in, and Dad orders his cheeseburger, fries, and Coke, and then Jimmy orders his cheeseburger, fries, and Coke like a loyal son, and then I would order my cheeseburger, fries, and Coke, and then it would come to Jeff and Steve. And they would order a all-white chicken breast, charbroiled, lettuce wrapped, you know what I mean? And Dad would just go, jeez. He'd get so bothered by it. And then Aaron Knight would order 16 appetizers. You're like, what's going on with Aaron? The appetizers. Anyway, all right, I'm sorry, I'm going off the key here. Dad loved cars. He owned well over 100 cars. He always made sure we had something cool to drive when we were growing up. He loved car auctions. So the first car auction I ever went to with Dad was with Ken Lundeen. And we went to Russo and Steele, where he bought a few cars subsequently. But we're sitting in the bleachers, and there's a Aston Martin Vanquish, like a 2003, beautiful car on the block. And we're sitting there, and Dad's like, "That's sure a nice car." I'm like, "Geez, that's like my dream car. It's a beautiful car." And anyway, so we start talking. I said, "Dad, how do you bid?" And he goes, "Oh, it's easy." So he's looking at the price of the car, and he goes, "Here, watch this," and he whistles. And he raises his hand, and they're like, new bidder, rah, 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 and he's like, it's quite, it's really not that. And all of a sudden he hears, sold. And the color drained out of his face. And And he looks at me and he goes, oh my gosh. I think I just bought an Aston Martin. It was a beautiful car. Dad loved his grandchildren, would always get down on the floor with them and play. We talked about the lip curl, so I won't talk about that, but Dad always would curl his lip when he'd get real mad. Dad has incredible instincts and always gave the best advice. I never got a shred of bad advice from my dad. He always knew what to say. Dad left the best voicemails, even though they were always really long and took up all my voicemail box memory. He always left the best voicemails. Just like Jim said, I've had a few people tell me this week that Dad was their best friend. And that was Dad's gift. He made everybody feel special and made everybody feel like they were very important to him. And he is and always will be my best friend too. Throughout the accident and the hospital stay and then his letting Dad go, I kept having this feeling that this isn't fair. Life isn't fair. Dad is this great man. Why did it have to happen to him? Life isn't fair. And I had a thought that I believe was the Lord talking to me. And that thought was, life isn't fair, but you have lived on the good side of that unfairness your entire life. And how lucky am I to have a great family and to have been born to a great family, even though my brothers teased me a lot and beat me up sometimes. But I was loved, and I love Dad, and I know he loves me, and I know he's proud of me. And I'm so grateful for that knowledge, because I am the luckiest person I can imagine to have Dad as my father. I want you all to know that Dad is here with us, and we're going to see him again. This is just but a small moment of life, and as horrible and sad as it is, I take great pleasure in my knowledge of the plan of salvation and that God loves us enough that we can return to live with him. And I look forward to the day where I get to tell my dad all the same things that I was able to tell him at his hospital bedside, which is that he's my hero. And I want to be just like him when I grow up. And I say that in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.